Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Every Day is Friday. Before we dive in, make sure you remember to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Let's get into it. Today's guest is Coach Rick. He is the founder of the Money Circle, and he's an investing coach who helps people learn how to invest, manage debt, and take control of their financial future. We're gonna talk about a lot of different topics today, and a quick note for everyone listening: nothing we talk about is financial advice. Always do your own research before making money decisions. Rick, welcome to the show.
I appreciate that. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm excited to be here. Been watching you a lot, and it's a great time. Not only to be a podcaster, but it's a great time to be in the finance world. And it's divine timing that we're on this podcast together. So I'm excited.
I've been watching your content a lot lately, and it's something special when you're following the news daily like you are, and you're teaching so many people when the news is breaking, and it's something special inside of that. Now, for the listeners that may not be familiar with your line of work yet, can you give us a quick rundown of who you are and what you do?
Yeah, so I've been in the banking world for about 10 years. I've held three different licenses in banking, including investment banking. And when I started in the banking world, I knew nothing about finance at all. Matter of fact, I was catastrophically in debt. We're talking, five, six figures. And for me, it was very interesting because I knew nothing coming into the finance world, but I knew that I had this vision of where I wanted to go. So it was this idea that even though I have all these barriers against me, if I could just learn a little bit about how finance works, eventually I can get to where I want to be, which was, I want to be able to buy a house. I want to be able to live comfortably and have a nice, retirement and, spend time with my family and things like that. But I knew that it was going to take change within me. So when I started on my finance journey in the banking world, I really didn't know much of anything. But what I learned is that there's certain principles about money that are actually very simple to understand. And if people just understood these finances, they'd be able to build wealth for themselves. So I've really just kind of taken that idea and what I've learned in finance and molded it into what we've created today, which is the Money Circle, where we basically just take news and break it down into basic information, financial information, so that people can get the knowledge that they need in order to build that wealthy life that they deserve. So basically, I guess simplest way I could put it, financial education.
Now, it's always fascinating to hear the why behind someone's passions. I mean, what inspired you to start teaching others about money and investing?
So I think it was a combination of two things, but the biggest thing was 2008. I grew up in the lower middle class south side of Chicago. So my mom was a single mom raising three kids and had three jobs. So I really had no money growing up at all. And when I was young, my mom got remarried to a gentleman who was working, my stepdad, who was working at a government job. And you would think if you're working at a government job, you're pretty well off. You're set, you got your government pension, you got all that stuff, and you're financially taken care of. Well, 2008 happened, and unfortunately, we lost a good chunk of the money that had been saved at that point. So my family had just built a $300,000 home and had to short sale it and sold it for 90,000. And then 75% of my stepfather's retirement was lost at that time. And what I realized is at that point that in order for me to understand, like, in order to get to a spot where I can retire comfortably, I'm going to have to figure this money thing out, because everything I was taught about get a cushy job and contribute to your retirement and put money in your 401k and all this stuff clearly wasn't the only solution, because look at all of these people that just lost a bunch of money in their retirement accounts. Now they have to work well beyond the years that they thought they were going to have to work. So that was a big portion of it. And then it really solidified once I got into investment banking, because what I realized is it didn't matter if I was sitting with somebody who maybe was only making $2,000 a month, or if I was sitting with somebody who made millions of dollars a year. They all kind of ran into the same problem, which was they didn't understand how money worked. And so it was kind of like this epiphany moment where it was like, aha, like, okay, so the biggest problem here between what we saw in 2008 and what I'm seeing with the clients I'm sitting in front of is that people just don't understand how money works. That's it. So that's when I really decided to make it my mission to teach these lessons that I had learned through my banking experience. And so that's what we founded the Money Circle on. And now we just hit 260,000 members literally today. And we're not stopping. Our next goal is getting into schools, getting into churches, and making sure that financial education is a mainstay here in America.
Congratulations on that, by the way. I
Appreciate
mean,
that.
for me personally, I was never taught any type of financial education in school. I mean, my family really didn't teach me anything either. I mean, who taught you the most about money?
It's all self-taught. I mean, to be 100% honest with you, so I went to college to be a mechanic. That was what I actually got my degree in. So I was a mechanic for BMW for about 5 years, and I really didn't like it at all. But here I am. I followed this idea of the American dream, or what I was told, right? So it's like go to high school, get good grades, go to college, and then find out what it is that you want to do, go to college, get a degree in it, and then do that for the rest of your life. Well, here I am. I take out this money to go to college, and now I'm working in a field that I really don't like at all. And then I have these goals of I want to buy a house and I want to be able to provide for my family and have a nice retirement, not repeat what I saw in 2008. But I realized that I didn't have the skills or knowledge to even pay off debt, to even understand how interest rates work, to even understand why taking out personal loans isn't always the best idea when I could, easily just put money somewhere else. Or there's a lot of different variables. But the fact of the matter is I didn't have the knowledge to get these goals done. So for me, what it was I just picked up every book I could on finance. And then as I started reading about finance, I became more and more fascinated with it. Like I wanted to know why. Why is it that these people have a lot of money and these people don't? Like, what are they investing into that they're not investing into? Why is it that banks are making all this money while people that are keeping money in banks are not making anything at all? Like, why is all of that? And so the more that I read, the more that I wanted to learn. And ultimately, what that led to was I self studied and got 3 different licenses in the financial realm itself, including being able to invest for clients. I've held some in the mortgage space, and then I've held one in the banking industry as well. So all of what I've learned is self-taught, and that's what I pride myself on. Is I'm very much somebody who knows that I don't know what I don't know, but I know a lot of stuff about money, a lot. And what I find fascinating is as much as I know, I'm only scratching the surface. And that's what I like to humble myself on, is knowing that as well as I'm doing right now financially, I know that I could always do better. And that keeps me in this space of always constantly learning. So I guess I would say like just books, audiobooks, listening to people who have what I want, the wealthy, things like that. So
Yeah, when I started investing, I always looked towards the money, followed the money. That's what I was taught in the
mhm.
very beginning of my investing thing. And I was trying to understand how money worked. Why does it move like it does? Why does a bank hold it? Why does everything go like it does? I started going to the next level. Who's the richest people on earth? I started really doing my research on Warren Buffett. And there's so many different ways to invest. I mean, there's dividend investing. I mean, there's stocks, options. There's more to everything that there's investing. Now there's crypto involved. Before, I mean, when I first started investing into stocks, I had to pay to actually make the transfer. I had to pay the I think it was Fidelity at the time, $5 to make the transfer to buy a stock, and now it's free through Robinhood and all this other stuff. They changed the game. It's always changing, and now there's crypto involved, and a lot of people are struggling out there with the student loans, and they don't know how to even get out of it. And basically, they have to read the books, do the financial literature. I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, a lot of good books out there that people just, should dive into, but the markets are always changing. Like even Rich Dad Poor Dad, he goes, this is a good book for this time period in, the world we live in, but the markets will change in the future. I mean, what's your take on the student loans crisis? I really want to ask you that because a lot of young people are having struggles out there, and I really want you to hear your take on that.
Well, what I really think it is it's a problem that we're not really we're patching it up is what I'll say. You can look at what Biden did and you can rejoice in it. You could look at what Trump's doing and you can rejoice in it. But the fact of the matter is all this stuff is patchwork. We are we have a system that's built that's designed to keep people in debt. The entire banking system is like that. And so regardless of talking about student loans, we're talking about credit cards, or we're talking about banks keeping money on your deposits and then issuing out more debt so that they make money. The whole system is built like that. But if we're just talking about student loans, how do you really address that? And the problem comes in where if you look at the statistics and what colleges have been charging since the 80s up until now, we've seen an increase in education of about 400%. And at some point, we've never once, at least not that I've heard of, maybe you've heard of something like this, but never once have we questioned why it is that we're charging so much for this education, but our students are getting subpar educations. I mean, if you look at not only how much the education costs has increased over the past couple of decades, but how much we've actually decreased in overall ranking in our education system, it really makes you start to wonder what exactly is going on. Why is it that these institutions are generating so much revenue and our education that students are getting is subpar? It really starts with that. And so I think that's a bigger crisis that I don't think we'll have a solution for. So we really have to address what we have now, which is why you're seeing a lot of reform in the student loan space right now with what Trump's doing. But what I really think it starts with, as far as the individual is concerned, is the education portion of it. And this is where the school system kind of is tripping up. And I'm not talking about college, I'm talking about our elementary and high school systems. Why is financial education not taught to kids? Why isn't it important that we teach them that, okay, here's how you save money and here's the importance of saving money? Because let's face facts. If we have a student that's prioritizing saving money throughout adolescence and while they're working in school, in high school, and even in some years in college, and they're understanding how to make that money work for them, yes, they may still have to take out debt, but they know how to address that debt so that they're not buried in it for the next 30, 40, 50 years. So I really think it's a temporary solution that we're seeing for a bigger problem, which is financial education, which is why I'm so passionate about what I do at the Money Circle, is because all of this, everything that we see, whether it be the problems that we're seeing in student loan crises or all the problems we're seeing with people not being able to pay medical bills or being able to afford a home or living paycheck to paycheck, all of this stuff can be solved if we just start with financial education at a young age.
Exactly. I mean, I was looked down upon not going to university. I went to a community college to save money and actually understand what I wanted to be, what I wanted to do with my life. I was so young, I didn't know what I was going to do, but I was looked down upon. My counselors are asking me, what university you want to go to? Other kids are going to Michigan State or they're going to Michigan. They're going to big names, colleges, universities. And I'm asking them, what are they going into? And some of them are like business and some of them are like doing other things, but they don't really know what they're going into. And their parents actually say, well, I just want them to have the same college experience I had. It's different from when they had it. The pay, like you said, the 400% is crazy percentage that they're paying. I had a buddy that actually, his dad was still paying off his student loan from Michigan State, and he was going to pay for his son to go to Michigan State. It was just mind-blowing to me, and I was like, I got to go to community college and figure out what I want to do with my life, because it's going to take me so long to pay back, thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars if I would decide to do that. I have a buddy that has a lot of debt, and, he wants to get married, but again, you got to stack your chips in the right order. You can't go pay for a huge wedding. Weddings cost about $40,000 sometimes, as big as he wants it. Yet again, it's just not easy nowadays. Do you think the student loans crisis do you think student loans will ever be forgiven?
I don't think it would be a great idea, at least when you look at how they would be forgiven from an economic standpoint. This is debt that was taken out by the government. You can't just write that off. You have to be able to counterbalance that debt somehow, some way. So for me, the way I look at it is, Is student loan forgiveness the best possible solution? Absolutely not. Is it a temporary fix? I definitely think so. I think one of the interesting things that is actually being proposed right now, which I'm kind of weighing pros and cons about, is passing responsibility of student loans onto institutions. Like, if institutions really want to make as much money as they're making from raising institutional costs, why not allow that burden to also fall on the schools as well? So if you want to come to our school, we'll help you go there. So colleges are financing this, right? But in return, you're also taking on a bigger liability as well. So maybe something like that happens. But as far as totally forgiving student loans altogether, I don't think that's a great idea. No.
Now, Coach Rick, I mean, why do you think so many Americans live paycheck to paycheck?
I think that it is just a skills and discipline. And I like to look at, we'll just talk about skills in general, right? When you wake up on a daily basis, there's certain things that you're doing, right? For a lot of us, it's brushing our teeth, making sure we look good. We got to get ready. We got to feed our dog. We got to, we drive certain ways to work. All of this is subconscious programming. All of it starts up here. These are things that we're doing unconsciously that we don't even think about. Tying our shoe is the same way, right? You may do the double ears thing. You may do the loop, swoop, and pull thing. Like, we're all different. But the fact of the matter is when we're tying our shoe, we don't think about it. Our finances are the exact same way. If you look at your finances right now and you're not where you want to be, that means you have subconscious programming that's happening that's keeping you in that space. And so how do you change that? Well, you switch it up. You do something different, right? So first and foremost, it starts with taking inventory of where you are. So this is the first thing that I teach when I'm sitting with a client is we have to take inventory of what exactly is going on in your financial life. That means I want to know every dollar that's coming in and every dollar that's going out. I mean, writing it down. I don't want to use apps because apps are just a lazy man's way of doing things. No. If we want to be serious about what we're doing, let's write down exactly what's going on. So that starts with a budget, right? And what the budget essentially does is show you what's going on subconsciously with you, because a lot of us have these patterns where we're wasting money and we don't even realize that we're doing it. So I know right now, I was just reading a statistic where the vast majority of Americans are spending more than $100 a month on some sort of subscription-based service. Well, okay, here's my question to that. I read about that today. Here's my question. If the vast majority of the population is spending over $100 a month on these services, are you realistically using those services on a consistent basis? Or is it just something that you've used that you think you're getting a good deal on, but you really aren't using it as much as you could be? And because of that, it's actually wasting money. It's little things like this. So what essentially happens is we have all these things going on in our day in, day out lives that we don't even really think about, right? We just have money coming out. We got these subscriptions, or maybe we're going to Starbucks 3 or 4 times a day, or maybe we're eating too much fast food or whatever, but we're not really thinking about these things. So what happens is when you start with a budget, you really shine a light on what's going on subconsciously, which allows you the ability to see where you're kind of wasting this money. So if we use the subscriptions example as a, for instance, if you break down all your subscriptions, you go, I don't even use that subscription. Okay, cool. Well, that subscription may have just saved you $20 a month, which may not seem like a lot, right? But now if you invest that $20 a month into either paying down your debt or investing it in the stock market, what could that turn into? The point is it doesn't matter how small the win is. You're starting to stack up wins, which ultimately, the more wins you stack up when building wealth, the more your wealth grows. And I think that's another big issue, not to get sidetracked, but that's another big issue, is because people look at it and go, well, I can only invest $5 a month, or I can only pay down an extra $5 a month in my debt, or whatever it is, right? They look at it as such a small amount. But that small step actually creates big ripples in the future if you're just consistent. And so that's really what it starts with those skills and those habits. But you have to shine a light on what's going on right now in order to understand what changes need to be made for you to start reaching those levels of wealth that you ultimately see for yourself.
Yes, the habits, the financial habits that grow over time. I mean, people are in credit card debt. I mean, they have phone bills. I mean,
Yep.
they're paying off their car. I mean, there's so many things stacking on the mortgage. There's so many things stacking and stacking and stacking. And then yet again, they're maybe in student loan debt as well. I mean, there's so much stuff that's happening at once. Coach Rick, I really want to ask you this. I mean, how do you personally define financial success?
Well, that's specific to the individual. This is why understanding finances is as important as it is right now, because I have people ask me all the time, what should I invest into? And that's really a loaded question, to be honest with you. And the reason why is because as I've studied finance as much as I have, and as I've studied wealthy people and successful people as much as I have, what I've realized is that each person wants something different. So, like, for instance, we have this idea in America that everybody wants to be a millionaire. That is so BS, it's not even funny. For some people, they just want to be the best teacher. For some people, they just want to be the best possible parent they can be, which means I want to be able to take my kid to Disneyland once a year. Maybe that's, the definition of success for somebody else is I want to be able to take an extra week of vacation and not have to worry about my bills, not getting paid. So that is really specific to the individual, and that starts with defining your financial goals. Once you have those financial goals laid out clearly with what makes you passionate, with what fills you up, what fills you with happiness, that's when you can actually lay out the plan financially of how you're going to get there. But it really starts with the individual. So however you define success individually, you're absolutely correct.
Yeah, I mean, for everyone listening, write down everything you're spending money on. That is a huge thing that I've learned too. Is like write down everything, what you're paying. I mean, the Netflix. I mean, there's so many things that are coming in so many different directions. I mean, I have a buddy that went golfing, and then he went to eat, and then he got more food at Jimmy John's. It was crazy how much he was spending. I was like, don't you cook at home at all? It's like you're gonna be saving more money if you do that. And you're in debt. So I mean, you're trying to figure this all out, and you're just in debt more and more and more, and you're just spending more on a credit card. Maybe it just adds up, and you got to write that stuff down. I mean, I really want to ask you about this because what's the difference between saving money and investing money?
So, saving money, basically, you want to look at it two ways. You save money for the reason of a rainy day, right? You always want to have your money working for you to some degree, but you also have to have protection. So there's a balance when it comes to finance. You don't want to have to access your investing account if an emergency comes up. So, like an example, I live in Arizona. So it's consistently 118 degrees in the valley. I swear, my air conditioning's running all the time. So you can imagine what it would be like if I'm running this podcast without air conditioning. I'd be pooling sweat. And an air conditioning unit right now costs between $8,000 and $10,000. Well, if I don't have $8,000 to $10,000 saved up and I need that, I have two options. I can put it on a credit card, which means I'm going further in debt, or I can dip into my retirement account, which now takes $10,000 out of my retirement account. And oh, by the way, if I don't have the right retirement account, I also have to pay taxes on that. So the difference between investing and saving is investing you're really going to use as a nest egg. This is going to help you hit small and long-term goals, but also have an emergency fund in the event that something happens. After you have that, and here's what I recommend for anybody that's watching this podcast, 3 to 6 months is what about you want to have for monthly expenses. So if you're sitting here and you're saying, well, Rick, I don't know what 3 to 6 months worth of finances looks like. Perfect. Me and Matt were just talking about how you have to write everything down, right? We'll start with writing everything down. What are your monthly expenses? And then when you know what those monthly expenses are, save 3 to 6 months of that in a savings account. Now, once you have that 3 to 6 months saved up, your very next step should be don't touch that. And then anything else from that point on, you're investing. Because the idea is you want to have your money work for you as much as you possibly can. That's the key to wealth. So I hope that makes sense, but that's the main difference.
Now, with that being said, Coach Rick, I mean, what's one of the biggest mistakes you see from beginner investors?
I would say being too emotional about investing. So if you look at the stock market traditionally, it goes through corrections. I mean, especially now with our current administration. I mean, we have a president in place, love him or hate him. He is polarizing for the stock market. He'll say something and all of a sudden markets will either go down or they'll go up. And a lot of times what trips people up is when the market starts to sell off, novice investors will sell too. Well, oh my God, I just put money into this stock and I'm already down 5%, 10%. I'm going to sell off. And then what'll happen is a sell-off happens, and then they'll tell themselves, well, investing just doesn't work, so I'm just not going to invest. So they allow that temporary sell-off to impact them long term. But if you look historically at the stock market, and I'll just talk about the stock market for simplicity's sake. If you look at the stock market, statistically, it goes up 10% year over year on average. That means even if you factor in the Great Depression, even if you factor in the pandemic, even if you factor in 2008, we still see the stock market increase about 10% year over year. So if you're just patient and you don't allow your emotions to get the best of you, you will win in the stock market long term. So as long as you're invested into the right assets for your investing style. And I want to caveat that because it depends on if you're an individual stock player, that's different than investing into index funds, and index funds are different into day trading and all that stuff, but that's for more advanced. But for the most part, people make money in the stock market as long as you stay invested long term.
I know a lot of people that like to invest into index funds, and then I know a lot of people that also like to pick individual stocks. I mean, what's your
Yes.
take on investing in like index funds versus, picking individual stocks?
Again, it's going to be dependent on risk tolerance and time horizon. So this is where understanding who you are as an investor is very important. And there's a great book that I read called The Psychology of Money. Strongly recommend anybody that is interested in learning about their investing style, read this book, because what it teaches you is how to play to your strengths when it comes to investing. So what I would say is I don't like to be specific when I make any of my content, because how you invest is completely up to you. For example, I'm more of a risky type investor, but I also do a ton of market research. So I'm very much that guy that looks at profit to sales. And I'm very much the person that wants to know how much assets do they have as compared to how much debt do they have. What are their earnings reports look like? What do the 13F filings look like for these companies? This is very in-depth market research that I do. But this is the stuff that interests me. If you're somebody who doesn't have that level of interest or really doesn't care that much, and you're just somebody who wants to put money into the stock market and you don't really want to risk a whole bunch, then index funds are probably the way to go. So again, it depends on risk tolerance, time horizon, and just like how risky, like you're okay being with all of this. So
I'm gonna tell everyone investing is an emotional roller coaster. It
Mhm.
just is how it is. I mean, some people say buy on the red days, and then, in the green days they just sit on it. But I mean, I really want to ask you, Coach Rick. I mean, what's one myth about investing you wish more people would stop believing?
One myth about that's a great question. That only the wealthy invest. How do the wealthy get wealthy? That's the question that I have. Is how do they get wealthy? They start investing. That's what they do. And so we have this fallacy that if you don't have tens of thousands of dollars to invest, that you shouldn't invest, right? Well, how can you invest tens of thousands of dollars if you're not investing? That's my question. Is you're going to have to eventually get to a spot if you want to become wealthy where you have tens of thousands of dollars to be able to invest. And how you do that is you start small. You start with what you can invest. So like, here's an example. When I first started investing, I think I started with $5 a month. This was 15 years ago. That's when I really, really was like, okay, I don't know what's going on, but I got to start somewhere. And I started with $5 a month, and it was just consistent. I didn't even really know what I was doing. I was just buying stock that I thought was cool. Like, hey, I know this company, like it is what it is, you know. But the fact of the matter is I stayed disciplined and I created the habit of just doing it over and over and over again. And all of a sudden, $5 wasn't a lot to me. Then I was like, okay, let me do $50 a month. Let me do $100 a month. Let me do $1,000 a month. And now it's gotten to the point where, and I say this in being totally humble, but now it's turned into 6 different sources of income where I've been able to diversify into things like real estate and cryptocurrency and dividend paying stocks. And all of this is a blessing, but it's a blessing because I didn't buy into this fallacy that only the rich invest. No, I started with what I could and just built on that.
I have a similar background as you. I mean, my first stock I ever bought was a Coca-Cola stock, and I had to
Solid
do some
stock.
more. I had to do some of my own research, and I was like, why is my stock not like rising up like every other stock? But it's like
Mhm,
they're just selling sugar water. You know, you
mhm.
get other companies like Tesla, they have the AI now, they have the robots, they have the taxi service they're coming out with, they have the car service. I mean, and then they have the batteries. I mean, there's so much technology growing
Yeah.
inside of the company. You want to look into a company that has a future, they're not in debt. And I laugh because like Warren Buffett makes more money than the CEO of Coca-Cola because he gets more in dividends investing out of Coca-Cola, which is like mind blowing if you think about it.
But even look at how he started too. I mean, this is just a kid from Nebraska, right? And he didn't have any money to invest at all. And so what did he do? He just borrowed some money from neighbors and friends and said, "Hey, I want to start investing in the stock market." And I think it was tens of thousands of dollars that he was able to start investing with, I believe. Don't quote me on that. But the fact of the matter is he's one of the richest people in the world because he didn't let the fear stop him. He didn't let this idea that only the rich are able to invest in the stock market, so I'm not going to. What if he did? We wouldn't have a Berkshire Hathaway. We wouldn't have a Warren Buffett. We wouldn't have the knowledge that we have about the stock market now if it weren't for somebody like him going against the grain and saying no. Like I'm going to start and I'm going to figure this thing out.
Now, Coach Rick, can I want to dive a little bit deeper? I mean, how can you explain the importance of a 401k and retirement savings in like simple terms?
So basically, the 401k, what it allows you to do is it allows you to create a thought-free retirement. And here's what I mean by that. Most companies offer a 401k and a lot of them offer matches. So if you can automate your savings, that's the best possible way for you to be able to start investing and start building that nest egg for retirement. So the strengths about the 401k is it gives you the ability to start on the path of preparing for retirement while you're working because I mean everything's automated for you. We talked about habits. We talked about this creating this idea of I'm going to start investing and I'm going to start taking care of my financial future. That's what a 401k does is it's a stepping stone in order for you to start taking the right action steps to be able to retire. Now, is that the only thing, in my opinion, you should be doing? No, but it's a great stepping stone. So what I think the biggest strength of the 401k is the fact that it keeps people in this state of starting and creating the habit of automating their retirement. But also, if there's a match, which is a huge bonus, that's free money for you as well in a 401k. Some companies match 1%, 3%. I've seen as much as 6% and sometimes more than that. So if you have the ability to contribute your earnings from your job into an automated retirement account that also matches you up to 3%, that's free money that you're investing in your retirement. So there's a lot of big perks to it. It's not the only way that I would think about retirement, but it's a great stepping stone for sure.
Now, Coach Rick, what happens if you don't start saving for retirement until later in life?
Well, then unfortunately, what happens is you're going to have to put yourself in an environment where you're going to have to take on some risk, a lot of risk. And unfortunately, when you get older, you shouldn't be taking on as much risk as somebody that's younger. And the reason why is because with risk, yes, there's a lot of reward, but there's also opportunity for that to go in the other direction. So right now, I'll just throw the example out there of you could look at either cryptocurrency or investing into AI. Those are two very volatile markets right now. They're very high risk, high reward. So anybody that's playing AI over the past 2 to 3 years has seen an increase in their and we'll just play AI stocks because crypto's all over the board. But if you look at AI stocks like NVIDIA, that's up 2, 3, 400% over the past 3 or 4 years. So if you're somebody who's starting the game late, that's a fantastic rate of return. Absolutely fantastic rate of return. Now, in the same token, that could have just as easily gone in the opposite direction, right? But if you're somebody who may have started earlier, you wouldn't have had to worry about taking that risk, because if you just invested in the stock market, say when you were 20 years old and you were doing the S&P 500 index, which means you don't have to pick individual stocks, which may or may not go in your direction. Now you know, based on historical data, you're probably going to get 10% year over year. So now you're living with a lot less stress. You're not having to take on as much risk, and you're more than likely going to hit your goal. So when it comes to, if you're somebody who's getting close to retirement and you unfortunately aren't where you want to be, you're going to have to take on more risk, which always is not, well, which is what I'll say is not always the best thing to do. There's a lot of different ways you can take on risk, but you have to take on more risk at that point just to meet those demands. So
There's another topic I really want to dive into. It's called cryptocurrency with you. What role do you see the blockchain and crypto playing in the future of investing?
So this was actually a topic that helped my social media go um, viral pretty quick. Was back in 2019, I was working for Wells Fargo Bank, investing, and we had an internal document that came out that said that the bank was going to be switching over to a new software called distributed ledger technology. And it was one of those emails that when it goes out, most of the company is like, okay, whatever, doesn't matter. You're going to be updating things, cool, like no big deal. But for me, being the inquisitive person I am, I'm looking at this and I'm like, our software works just fine. Like, what are we doing? So I really dissected what they were saying, and I got into this idea of distributed ledger technology. And the more I dug into what it was, I realized what they were using is blockchain. And then I thought to myself, well, this is interesting. So we're switching over to blockchain technology, and since I've been in banking, have scrutinized cryptocurrency that's also built on blockchain. Well, that's kind of interesting. So the thing that we're advocating against is also something that we're going to be partially adopting. And that's where the pieces started to kind of connect for me. And I started to think to myself, I'm like, so why are we so interested in this? Like, what is it that makes us go, this software that we've been using since the 70s is no longer going to work for us. We need to switch over to something different. That's when I started to go down the rabbit hole of why is it that banks are switching over from, it's called the SWIFT system, that's what we're using now in banking, to this new system that is called distributed ledger technology. It's also known as ISO 20022. Why are we doing that? And what I started to realize is that the point of it was to be able to settle transactions as fast as possible, because right now we live in a world of convenience. That's just a fact of the matter. People don't want to put a check in the mail and then or put a check in their account and then have to wait 24 hours to potentially a week to 2 weeks for them to get access to those funds. We want to be able to get money immediately when we get paid, but that's just not how banking works. Why is that? And so what I started to realize is that when this switch is happening, banks are all about one thing, and that is making money. That's what a bank is about. I mean, they make money when you deposit money in there, right? They want to get their hands on as much possible investment money as they can. So, and this was the question I started to pose, which I could not draw a logical explanation to outside of the use of cryptocurrency, was if banks are going to be switching over to use the same software that cryptocurrency already uses, what would stop them from just saying, okay, we already have the technology, why not just accept cryptocurrency so we could also be able to take in more money to drive more revenue and more profit? Why would they not do that? And that's where it all kind of started to piece together. So I was like, at the end of the day, the bank is a business and they need to drive as much revenue as they possibly can. All they'd have to do is basically say, hey, we trust crypto enough to be able to custody it and be able to issue it to our clients. And all that really takes is them understanding it better. That's it. And so back in 2019 is when I discovered that all this was going to happen. And that's when I started posting about it on social media. And I think that's why we're seeing as much hype around cryptocurrency as we are now, is because not only are banks starting to recognize that, okay, there's something here, but also the software is changing and less regulation is happening around banking, which gives them the ability to take in more crypto. So I think it's just a domino effect falling, and it all started once banks realized they had to update their software back in 2019.
Yeah, I mean, I used to hate waiting 3 to 5 business days to, get money transact. And there's like always a saying out there I've always heard. It's like, don't do what they say, but do what they do. And it's like you got to do your research all the time on what these businesses are doing because they're out for themselves all the time. And what is the blockchain in simple terms?
The simplest way I can put it is it's a software. So it's a software that basically stores data securely and makes it so that this data cannot be changed. So it's basically a software with a record of every transaction that's ever happened. So rather than the old school system that we have in banking, which was very much a slow, archaic system based on, I mean, do you remember the term banker's hours?
I do not.
Okay. So banks used to run on bankers' hours. This was shortened hours for banks. So banks were open about, I believe it was 5 to 6 hours. This was back in, I believe, the 60s, 70s, and 80s. And the reason why this is because after they did all of their transactions for the day, they would then have to catalog all of those transactions for about 4 to 5 hours afterwards. So bankers weren't done once the banks closed their doors. No, they had to update all of those records and keep paper trails of all of it. Well, that's still there. We have a version of that system now with the Swift system. So with the blockchain, what it's going to do is every single time a transaction happens, it happens not only instantly because the blockchain is able to verify funds immediately, but it also has record of the transaction, who originated the transaction, and who was a part of it. So where did the money come from and where did it go to? So it creates more transparency, it creates more efficiency, and it makes sure that everything just runs a lot smoother than what we're seeing today.
It almost seems like we should put the stock market on the blockchain and maybe even real estate on the blockchain and basically start putting a lot of things on the blockchain.
Yeah, I mean, I just made a video on this probably 2 weeks ago where you're already starting to see a movement. I know Franklin Templeton talked about it, and so did Robinhood. I believe Coinbase was another one as well. But what they want to start doing is tokenizing assets. So any asset, including houses, including cryptocurrencies, including stocks, including anything that can be considered an asset, they want to tokenize it. And the reason for that is simplicity of record keeping. If we know who owns a property, the transfer of that property could happen almost instantly. So rather than you have to go through the entire mortgage process and you involve the city, you involve the state, you involve the title companies, you involve everybody that updates the deeds and the contracts, and then the banks and all of that. How long does it take to close on a house? I mean, if you're lucky, it'll take you a week. Sometimes it can take you a month. Well, what if we just put the deed of that house on the blockchain and we said, hey, Matt, I want to buy your house. I will transfer you the money right now through the blockchain. You'll have it in the next 30 seconds. You can verify that you get it. And then as soon as that happens, you transfer me the deed of your house. And everybody's updated along the way. The government's updated, the state's updated, you're updated, and now there's record of transfer happening. So within seconds, we've transferred the ownership of your house from you to me, within 30 seconds, everything has taken place.
There's a good and a bad for everything, it sounds like, because, I could see the government not liking it, because they hide a lot of money in a lot of different places.
Well, I think that no matter what happens, they're always going to find a way to do that. I mean, if there's one thing I've learned in studying money as much as I have, I've dug down the rabbit hole quite a bit. Why is it that the wealthy continue to get the advantages that they have? Why do they have access to the things that they like? Even in banking, I'll give you this quick example, okay? This is one of the reasons why banking was so interesting to me and why I chose to leave banking and go more into the social media space and educate on finance rather than sticking with banking. When you walk into a bank, you'll notice that there's a banker that you can meet with at any time, right? Well, that banker can only help you to a certain income level. So once you reach a certain income level, you can't work with that person anymore. And it's not that they won't work with you, it's that they'll refer you out to somebody else. And then that next banker can work with you up to a certain income level and a certain income level. Now, here's where this comes in and why they do that. They do that because as you have more money, you have access to more things, more products, more opportunity to make more money. This is where things like angel investing comes in and private equity comes in. The average person right now in their 401k, or if they walk into their bank, if they go, hey, I want to invest in private equity, they're going to get laughed out the door. The banker's going to be like, dude, no, you're not going to be able to do that, right? So unfortunately, the way it goes right now is when you're wealthy, you have access to things that the average everyday person doesn't have access to. That's just the fact of the matter. With the government, it's very much the same way. The government, I mean, if they want to get something done, they're going to find a way to get something done. That's just the way it is. So although they may not like it, which my suspicion is they probably love it, to be honest with you, because now they can see everything that's going on. The fact of the matter is they'll still find ways to accomplish whatever agenda they have. That's just the way it goes.
In my personal opinion, I believe the U.S. government made Bitcoin. That's my personal opinion there. I mean, people can argue all day on who made it and, how it was made and all that stuff, but that's my opinion. They kind of put it into circuit for people to, think about it. Now is
Yeah,
crypto.
I'd love to go into the conspiracy thing with you. I've done a lot of research, but we'll keep it on topic for now. So,
Can you dive into the ISO 2022 coins a little bit for me?
yeah, so there are ISO compliant coins. So when Swift decided they were going to update the banking software to this new software, which again, it's ISO 20022 for those that are unfamiliar, they wanted to know, okay, if we're going to bring this in, what compliant coins are we going to be able to use? So when it comes to investing and when it comes to banking rules, you have to play by the rules in order to be able to, like, for instance, if a company wants to go IPO, you have to play by the SEC's rules. You have to file the correct paperwork. You have to make sure that everything you do is in compliant with our rules. It's the same thing in banking. If countries don't play by the rules of America's banking, you're not going to be able to. That's why you don't hear much about Russia getting any sort of tariffs or anything. It's because they've been so sanctioned by the United States that they're not even able to participate in the Western world banking because they're not playing by the rules. So when you talk about ISO 20022 coins, these are coins that are playing by the rules of what banking wants to see. These are the ones that are basically saying, okay, whatever you tell us to do, if we need to meet these guidelines, we'll meet them. And so I know that there are, I believe it's either 7 or 9 coins. There's Stellar Lumens, there is XRP, there is, I'm sure you know about a lot of them. I'd have to go through the list of them, but there's like 7 different ISO 20022 coins that are compliant with the current system that Swift is looking to ultimately implement.
Yeah, and these are not meme coins we're talking about here. I mean, a lot of people just create coins and rug pull and stuff like that. These are actually coins that will be used in the financial system, it sounds like.
Well, yeah, and
Soon.
let's talk about that term meme coins for a second, right? That's one question I get all the time is, should I invest in meme coins? And I want to be clear about what the difference of that is for somebody who maybe is unaware or keeps hearing this term. I know we're hearing a lot about it with Gavin Newsom talked about how he wants to issue a meme coin because Trump's doing it and all this other stuff. There's a difference between good utility cryptocurrency and meme coin cryptocurrency. The main difference is this. With a good utility, it means it has a use case, meaning it solves a real world problem. So the biggest one that I always like to use is I like to use XRP. What XRP does is it basically it settles bank transactions almost immediately. It's like 3 seconds. So right now, with our current Swift system, it takes banks between 24 and, I mean, it could take up to a week to, a month to settle a transaction from bank to bank. That's how long it takes. So on the short end, it's going to take 24 hours. On the long end, it could take a couple months. What XRP does is it settles that transaction immediately, 3 seconds. That's the real world utility. So that means it has a use case. Like, yeah, no, okay, you're solving a real world problem. So when you look at solid utility coins, you want to look for ones that actually solve a real world problem. When you're looking at meme coins, these are just fugazi, I like to describe them as. These are just hype coins. These are people that are just creating coins to turn a quick buck. And if you want to play those, by all means, I know I get a lot of questions in my DM about meme coins. I don't play them. There's a ton of risk behind them, but I know there's a lot of people that make a lot of money in them too. So that's the difference between those two for those that may be wondering.
Now, what would you say to someone that doesn't believe in cryptocurrency? Because I mean, there's a lot of people that say that, and like, the U.S. government is buying it and putting it on their balance sheet now. I mean, what would you say to some people out there?
I wouldn't try too hard to convince them, to be honest with you. That's really not my job. I know that cryptocurrency has gotten a bad rap since its inception for good reason. I mean, for years, a lot of fraud was, I mean, it still happens. A lot of fraud. Every time, you hear about bank scams these days, almost every time you're hearing it has something to do with Bitcoin. So because of that, people just have this negative connotation toward it, and that's fine. I'm not here to convince you that cryptocurrency is this great thing that you should be investing into. Do I personally think people should be diversified into cryptocurrency? Yes, I do. I think you should have 10% in your portfolio in cryptocurrency. Safe ones, of course. That's a topic for another discussion. But when it comes to cryptocurrency, the fact of the matter is just pay attention, is what I would say. When you're starting to see big institutions like BlackRock, like Vanguard, like State Street, like the US government, like businesses and corporations coming in and saying, we're going to put some of our assets into cryptocurrency, there's a reason why they're doing it. I mean, do you think that companies that are worth that much money and have that much money in assets under management would make a financial decision like that for the potential of losing everything? No, it doesn't make sense. So clearly, there's something there that needs to be paid attention to. And when you mix that with the fact that now we have this strategic reserve fund that the United States is doing, where we're investing some of our assets into cryptocurrency, it really starts to solidify this idea that cryptocurrency is here to stay. I mean, at this point, there's no denying it. It's here to stay. Whether or not you choose to jump on board with it or not is completely up to you. I'm not here to convince you of that, but just pay attention to what's going to happen, especially in the next 5 to 10 years, as we start to see less and less regulation in the banking world and more banks opening up the possibility to consumers being able to invest into cryptocurrency.
The number one rule I tell people about cryptocurrency is do your own research.
Always. I think that's just with everything financially. I think we started this podcast off strong and we're finishing strong with the same kind of message, right? Which is when it comes to investing, you want to play to your strengths. We're sitting here talking about different things like meme coins and cryptocurrency. And if you're older, how should you be investing? Things like this. The fact of the matter is when it comes to investing, you have to really understand who you are as an individual investor. And what that takes is you sitting down and figuring everything out in your finance world. And then once you figure that out, and I don't want to say everything as in it's this big pile of like, oh, now I got to add this whole new list of problems. No. But if you just take it a step at a time and go, okay, here's where I am financially. Here's what's important to me. Here's my risk tolerance. Here's my time horizon. Here's the goals that I have in front of me. Once you start to figure those things out, you'll figure out where you should be putting money, where you shouldn't be putting money, what you should be prioritizing, what you shouldn't be prioritizing. So I think that's why financial education has become as important as it has been, is because right now we're living in a time where, number one, we're seeing a massive transfer of wealth. I mean, massive transfer of wealth. And now you're getting some of the best opportunities for investing that we've ever seen. And so education is really going to become the most important thing that people have to have. Because if you don't understand yourself individually, money wise, what makes you tick, where you can afford to cut a little bit of expenses, where you can start paying down debt, how you can lower your interest rates, how you can start saving money and putting money aside to buy a home. If you can't figure those things out, you're doomed to repeat the same cycle over and over again. So I think, playing into your point, the individual is the most important thing. So if you're listening to this podcast, I would encourage you to really start taking a deep dive into your own personal financial situation and really start taking action. Even if it's the smallest action, I promise you, those small actions repeated over time are ultimately going to lead to more success financially than you've ever had.
Yeah, those small actions, those habits, they add up, those small wins to, achieving that big goal at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
What's your prediction for the U.S. economy over the next couple of years? I really want to ask you, I mean, what signs are you looking for, and what are you paying attention to?
Well, I think we really need to pay attention more closely to the tariffs. Love Trump or hate Trump, he has a point. And our biggest competitor right now is China. China has found a way to encompass pretty much the entire global economy from a import export standpoint. I mean, it's incredible what they've been able to create in a very short period of time. And if the United States isn't able to figure out a way to shift more of that power to back home, we're going to become second fiddle to China before too long. Right now, it's stated that if we change nothing by 2028, China's actually going to have a faster growing economy than we will. There'll be a bigger economy, not a faster growing, a bigger economy than we will. So that's why the tariffs play such an intricate role in what's happening right now, because the idea is to level the playing field. It's to bring jobs back to America. It's to make sure that we're manufacturing products here rather than getting our products from other countries. Be more self-reliant. If we can do that, if we can offset the trade deficit, if we can bring in more revenue from other countries, that will help us stay a global superpower for the world economy for decades to come. But I think we'll really get a more clear answer to your question as these tariffs continue to be put in place, but also trade deals continue to be put into place. So I think these next 3 years that we have ahead of us are going to be the most crucial for us to get any sort of indication with what's going to happen over the next decade or two.
I appreciate your insight there.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is the Friday mindset part of the show. I want to dig into your journey, your mindset, and the moments that have really shaped you. Now, what's been the best piece of advice you've ever received?
The best piece of advice is that there's nothing negative that happens in your life. What you think is negative is not negative. So when we all have goals in life, and a lot of times, especially in business, I've noticed this big time in business, but you'll have these things that happen in life that at the time when they happen, you're like, why is this happening to me? Like, I don't understand it. Maybe it's, you know, you get in a car accident, or maybe you lose your job, or, plug and play whatever negative scenario you want. A lot of people, they look at those things as negative. And then what'll happen is they'll just linger on that. They'll live in this victimness of like, oh my God, things just consistently happen, consistently happen, consistently happen. But if you're just patient and you allow things to play out, what you'll notice is a couple months down the road, or what I've noticed is it's usually like 6 months to a year after that negative thing happens, I realize why it actually happened. And every single time, what I've noticed is it's to redirect me to help me get more clear about what I want in order to hit my goal. So I'll give you a really good example, and this is just a personal um, story of mine that I share with a lot of people. Is I was in a really nasty car accident back in 2019. So I was hit by a fire truck on the way to a call. I was T-boned. The fire truck was doing 50 miles an hour, no lights or sirens on at the time at all. I was in a 2016 Nissan Altima. None of the airbags went off. Okay. Now, at that time, after the car accident, it was a miracle because I went to the hospital and was released 3 hours later. I did have to do physical therapy for 90 days. During physical therapy, I wasn't able to stand or sit for more than 15 minutes at a time because of the accident, my spine had shifted 3 inches to the right. So for 3 months, I was bedridden. Okay. Now, what I realized because of that accident was I really wasn't taking care of myself. I didn't like going to the gym. I really had a lot of unhealthy habits as far as what I was eating, what I was drinking, my diet. I wasn't very goal oriented or motivated at all. Like, this was just my life at that time, right? So when this car accident happened, I'm laying in bed and I can't get up. I mean, I'm going to physical therapy 3 or 4 times a week, and I'm taking all the blood work and all this other stuff. And basically, the blood work came back horrible. And the doctor's like, I don't know what you've been doing the past 5 years, but you really need to change your diet. On top of that, I go and visit the physical therapist, and the physical therapist says, well, I have news for you. He's like, we're going to be able to get you back to tip-top shape, but you have been in bad shape for the past at least 5 years. So once we get you to tip-top shape, never stop going to the gym. That's what he told me. That's exactly what he told me. He said, never stop going to the gym. We'll be able to get you back there. And I was only, when this accident happened, I was in my early 30s. So you got to figure early 30s, just not, I mean, I look back at pictures and I was bloated in the face. I was probably about 20 pounds more than what I am now, just really in bad shape. But anyways, you fast forward and it's, what is it, 5 years later? Yeah, 5 years later. And I am in the best shape of my life. I go to the gym 4 times a week. I am very serious about my goals. I don't take a single second for granted. I am accomplishing things that I never would have thought that I was able to accomplish before. And it's all because that accident happened. So one of the biggest things that I've learned in life that I take with me everywhere is what you think is bad is not bad. It's simply something that needs to happen in order for you to get that thing in life that you want. You just have to give it time. You'll have that aha moment somewhere along your journey where you'll be like, oh, that's why that happened. So again, it could be, losing a job or losing that relationship with the person that you really loved or going bankrupt or whatever. That thing has to happen in order for you to get what you really want in life. So what you think is bad is not bad.
There's a saying I say, this is so bad, this has to be good. Trying to find the light in the darkness.
And you always will if you just remain patient. And I think faith in God is a big thing too. I really found religion through my car accident, but also being an entrepreneur. You have to have faith. You have to believe that what you're going for is coming to you. And so I think that's a big part of faith too, is understanding that even in the darkest of times, God is always there with you. He will always help you get through it. Just stay as strong as you possibly can. Even if you can get a sliver of hope and a sliver of strength, that's better than being completely hopeless.
Yeah, what you are is God's gift to you, and what you do with it is your gift to God. And one door will close, another one will open. It's just how things, you should look at it. positive. I love that mindset you have. Thank you for
I mean,
sharing
I
that.
believe that that's just my personal opinion. I've lived in darkness and I've lived in light. I think I shared at the beginning of this podcast, I grew up in a lower middle class family. A lot of negativity, a lot of bad influences, a lot of drugs, alcohol, things like that. My dad was an alcoholic. My mom wasn't around half the time when I was growing up. So I have a choice in life. I can sit here and be a victim to that and say, hey, okay, well, this is what I grew up with, so this is all I'll ever have. Or I can go, okay, well, this is how I grew up, and that doesn't define who I am. I always have the choice to choose a better thought. I always have a choice to do something different, invest rather than spend money on a credit card. Like you always have that choice. And it's the same thing with everything in life, whether we're talking about, the relationships you have with people and the choices you make there, the decisions you make at work, or the decisions you make with money. At any point in time, you have the power to make the choice. And that's the beautiful part about being a human.
Yeah, sometimes being a man is going through the hardships, the hard times, and that's what makes you who you are. And some friends are meant to be in your life for just a season, and some are just for a reason. I figured that one out hard, but I figured it out.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And everybody's a blessing that comes in. I mean, even on this podcast, right? I mean, I'm proud of what you're doing. This is a super cool podcast. It's awesome to watch you grow, and it's not a mistake that we're on this thing together. You know what I mean? It's not a mistake that you're going to be able to continue to grow and get better, and you're going to run into people who help propel you to the goals that you have. There's no mistakes in life ever, regardless of how bad things might look. No, those things have to happen in order for you to hit those goals that you have. So, yeah, it's all just part of the journey.
I'm so thankful for you and all my guests that's been on my show every day is Friday. I mean, I dive into their stories and experiences, and I take something away from each and every experience I have interviewing each and every individual out there. And I have just great gratitude towards all of them because, it's all about the journey, not the destination, but the personal development. Like I'm learning, I have connections from around the world now. I mean, I want to have you on the guest as a guest future podcast as well,
Love it.
and you're going
Would
to
love
watch
it.
me
Yeah.
on this journey.
Yeah. I'm gonna keep tracking it for sure, man. I mean, again, this is just super cool, and it's all part of it. I remember, like I said at the start of this, when I started with, I think it was my mom and like three people watching my social media videos. That was it. My mom would like text me, and she'd be like, "You're doing so well, honey." And I'm just like, "Mom, there's four people, and you're one of them that's watching my videos." But it's like it's part of all of it. It's part of life. It's part of building a business. It's part of advancing in your career. It's part of being the best human you can be, the best parent you can be. It's all part of it. And you take it in stride and you take it with gratitude and you just get a little bit better every single day and watch where it leads.
With you saying that, shout out to my dad that's listening right now. I know you're
Shout out,
listening.
Dad.
Thank you. Thank you for being my number one fan out there. You're always
Shout
supporting
out,
me,
Dad. What
always
up,
being
Dad?
there.
That's
Um,
awesome.
my next question for you, because this is your whole realm right here. I mean, what's one of the biggest money mistakes you've ever made?
Over leveraging and taking action before I was ready. So I'm a huge car person. Being a former mechanic, I mean, so we have these SCCA events, or Sports Car Club of America events in Phoenix. So this is where you can take your car and race it on a closed track. So safely go out and do your thing. Like this is the stuff that gets me going. I love stuff like that. So naturally, having sports cars is my life. Like I really enjoy stuff like that. So when I was building my first business, I was starting to make a little bit of money. It was a couple $1,000s a month in that area, and part of it was an affiliate marketing business. And part of the bonus incentives that they had in this affiliate marketing business was we'll buy you a car once you hit a certain level. So basically, how it worked was you qualify. After you qualify, we'll just add $400 additional onto whatever you're making monthly so that you can pay for whatever car you want. So that's how it worked, right? So whatever $400 gets you, that's what it gets you type deal. So I was probably, I think, 2 months away from qualifying for it. And I'm thinking to myself, oh, I'm for sure hitting this thing. Like, I'm for sure hitting this. I have so much momentum going on in my business right now. Without a doubt, this is happening. So I decided, you know what? I'm just going to get my car now and I'll just wait. I'll pay for it myself for the first couple of months and then the company will pay for it as well. Well, there was two problems that occurred, and I'll talk about the first one right now. The first one was the car I was looking at was not $400 a month. It was are you a car guy at all?
A little bit, a little bit.
Okay. So it was a C63 AMG Mercedes, which is about $120,000 car, brand new. I got mine used simply because I found a better deal with it used. So I figured, you know what? I'm going to qualify for this thing. Let me just go get it now. And I was 25 at the time, I think, like 25, something like that. And so I get it. And with the car payment and insurance, I'm paying about $900 a month. So I've doubled what the company is willing to give me and a little bit more. But I'm thinking to myself, no big deal. Like I'm having a lot of success in my business. I'll eat ramen noodles for the next 2 months. It'll be fine. Whatever. No big deal. Okay. Well, here's what happened. 3 months goes by and I get an email that the company, the affiliate marketing company that I'm working for, has been sued. And you can forget payments. We can't pay you until the lawsuit's over. So the income stopped in the business overnight, stopped completely. And now I'm left not only with a loss of income from what I was making before that, but also I was expecting to get a bonus to pay for this car. And now I don't get that either. So now I'm stuck with a car payment of $1,000 and I pretty much just lost my job. And now I'm responsible for a loan that's about a $50,000 loan on a car that, number one, I shouldn't have even gotten in the first place. The maintenance on it is absolutely insane. And I wasn't even ready financially. Like I, at this time, wasn't even in finance. This was one of the first businesses I had. So I was way over leveraged. I had no money in savings. Now I have this big debt going on. I lost my income. Like I don't have any retirement savings, like nothing. And I'm like, oh, what am I going to do? And so that was probably the biggest mistake I ever made. And I had that car for probably 4 years. So I was financially buried in it for 4 years. And that was actually one of, and this is why this is kind of a full circle point here, was a lot of people would look at that situation and say that's a really bad situation, but it wasn't, because without me making that decision, I would have never cared how finance worked at all. But what I realized at that time is I was like, how am I going to pay for this? I better figure out how money works real quick if I want to keep this thing. So it was one of those things that at the time seemed like a really bad decision, but as time went on, I was like, oh, okay, well, yeah, I have this debt now, but here's how I tackle this debt, and here's how I get rid of it as quick as possible. So my worst mistake was also one of my most enlightening mistakes at the same time.
Yeah, you've learned from those lessons, and you have that story to share today because of it, And what
Right.
happened to the car after all that?
I ended up trading it in. I got rid of it. I had to eat the negative equity, and actually, it was rolled into that Nissan that I got into a car accident with. So what happened with it was, and again, this is all God right here. So rolled the negative equity into the Nissan, and then when I got in the car accident, insurance paid off the entire car, the entire thing. So I was left with no more debt from that car.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Rick,
again, full circle, it's just one of those
yeah,
things that it's like you never know. You really never know. So it's, I take every single thing that happens as a blessing and just say, you know what? I don't know how. Even in the moment, I don't know how. And I'll feel every emotion in the book. I'm not, numb to, anger and frustration and, anxiety and all that stuff. I'm very much, like everybody else. But for me, I always, once I get a second to calm down, I'm like, you know what? This is helping me. I don't know how, and I don't need to know how. I don't need to know. I just know that everything always works out for me, and this too will work out for me. And then I just allow time to pass. And as time passes, I'll have that aha moment where I'm like, that's why that happened. And it's like clockwork. It always, always happens.
now what's the biggest driving factor for success in your career right now?
I think my viewers on my social media. I mean, I'm going to talk about this to just bring up this point very briefly, but if you go on social media, you turn on the TV today, everything is separated by politics. Everything is separated by left and right. You either love this guy, you hate this guy, whatever. And a lot of people unfortunately live their life as victims. They believe that the school system's going to help, or my job's going to help, or this politician's going to help, or the government's going to help. Nobody's here to save you. I mean, if you're watching the podcast right now, I'm going to break the news to you. Nobody's here to save you. Nobody. Nobody. If you think that the person you're voting in is going to help save you, they're not. That's not what they're there for. They're there to help America grow, which isn't individual preference. Sometimes it works out for you, sometimes it doesn't work out for you. But why take that chance? Why not just stand up as the individual and go, I want to figure this out. I want to have the information so I can succeed. So my driving force is my viewers every single day. How can I give you the news and how can I deliver this to you in a form that you understand it, but you also know how to navigate it? Because right now, I think we can agree that there's a lot of uncertainty in everything going on with the tariffs, with inflation. We don't know what's going to go on. We don't know what's going to happen with the housing market. We don't know what the best things to invest into right now. A lot of market volatility, like all sorts of stuff. And I understand that. It's a lot of information. So if I can come in and I can help you digest that information and make it very, very simple so that you understand how to make the necessary moves financially to just be a little bit better off, than I've done my job. That's it. If I can give you just a little bit, then I've done my job. And so I think that's what kept me going when I had my 4 viewers. It wasn't about me. It wasn't about we're at 260,000 followers now. It's not about how big the channel gets. It's about the individual at the end of the day. If I know that one person watched my videos and they're like, I am thankful he said that, I now know what to do, my day's awesome. That's just the way I look at it, and that's how I define success for myself, is how can I provide the best possible content that I can in order to help people win financially. That's it.
And for the listener out there that wants to take action towards one of their dreams, go chase your dreams, because your dreams will not chase you. Hit the
And they
record
matter.
button, start a podcast. If you want to be a boxer, get in a ring, start training. Do what you love, and really ask yourself, what is your why? What is your purpose? That's what you got to chase.
Yeah. And I think you said it. It's for the individual out there. I know your goals seem like they're way high up there. Like, I don't know what it is, but whatever that dream is that you have, it starts with a single step. That's it. And I think, again, to come full circle, if we're relating this back to money, if you're somebody who you want to go on that extra vacation, or you want to start saving for a house, it takes a single step. Start with what you can. Can you start saving 5 cents? Can you start saving $10? Can you start saving? Because I guarantee you can. You may not know how right now, but I promise you can. But the journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step. So if you just compound those habits into little, easy to digestible things you can do on a daily basis, eventually you'll hit that goal. And it's the same thing like what you're doing here with the podcast. Just repetition over and over and over again. And then eventually you'll have this big, huge, podcast and, doing it in front of millions of people. But the point is you have to start somewhere.
It is a great takeaway. I appreciate you sharing that. And the show is called Every Day is Friday, Rick. And Friday has a special energy, whether it's like freedom, excitement, or just feeling of accomplishment after a long week. I want to hear from you. What does Friday mean to you?
Oh my God, Friday's like the best day. Are you kidding me? Like, the energy is just totally different. It's like you just feel accomplished at the end of the week. You're like, number one, I made it. Like, this is awesome, because nobody likes Mondays. Nobody likes Mondays at all, right? So it's just like this breath of fresh air. But also, what I love about it is the fact that on the weekends, that's when you get to spend time doing what you love to do. If it's spending time with your family, right? You get to do that. If it's just, napping, because you've worked so hard throughout the week. You get to do that. If you get to, a lot of people go see their kids' sports games, or, they watch football because now we got football season coming up. Like, you've now made it on Friday. Like, you're there. You're there. So now it's like, go enjoy yourself. Go have a great start to the rest of your weekend, because that zest is going to motivate you to go crush the following week, and then crush the following week, and crush the following week. And the more you just keep stacking up these wins, the more life is just going to be awesome for you.
Thank you for saying that no one likes Mondays, because my uncle just says all the time, every day is Monday to me.
I mean, hey, to each their own, but
Every day is
Mondays are
Friday here.
the 100. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. Absolutely. That's
Now,
so
Coach
cool.
Rick, this is your chance to leave the listeners with something powerful. What else would you like to share?
Yeah, I mean, your financial future is in your hands. If you're somebody that's watching this podcast and you're feeling overwhelmed and you're feeling anxious and you're feeling scared and you're feeling nervous and you don't know how to tackle your student loans and you don't know where to start investing, and you just don't know. There's just so much information out there. First and foremost, I respect you for getting on this podcast and really listening and paying attention, because whether you know it or not, you're actually taking a step in the right direction for wanting to know more. The first step in hitting your goals is the acceptance of new information. And what you're doing is you're already taking the necessary steps in order to change your life. And so know that you do have the ability to pay off those student loans. Know that you do have that ability to live that financially free life that you want to have, and get that house that you deserve to have, and go on that vacation. You do deserve it. And you're already taking the necessary steps. So just give yourself grace first and foremost, and allow yourself to be comfortable being uncomfortable. This is a new journey for you. This is a new change for you. But I promise you, if you just stick with it and you continue to learn and you continue to be a sponge for information, you will eventually hit those goals that you have financially. And I'd love to be that person that helps guide you through that journey, because this is what I love. I love teaching you how to do this. I love educating you on what's going on in the world right now and how you can navigate it, and breaking down these complex financial verbiage and jargons and markets, and giving them to you in a way that's easy to understand, because I, like you, wasn't given this information. I, like you, felt exactly like you do, where maybe you are drowning in debt. Maybe you are, just feeling depressed and hopeless. I understand that. I can relate to that. But I can also tell you that it does get better, and I'm here to help you every step of the way. And I'd love to be that person for you to help get you to the light at the end of the tunnel.
Now, all your information will be in the description down below, but I want to make sure that people know where to follow and support your work. Where can the people follow and support?
Absolutely. So we are on TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram, and it's going to be at The Real Rick Doyle. So TikTok.com/@TheRealRickDoyle, and then Instagram @TheRealRickDoyle as well.
And for anyone else there listening, I always say this: visualize it, take action towards it, then you will be able to manifest it. It's one of those things you have to visualize, take action, and then you will manifest it. But don't forget, you can always ask Coach Rick to help you out, and go check out the Money Circle.
Yeah, absolutely. And my DMs are always open. That's what I tell people. I'm an open book. I'm not one of those people that, because we hit 260,000, I'm not going to give you the time of day, because, again, I pride myself in really helping as much as I possibly can. So feel free, if you're uncomfortable, dropping things in comments, and DM me. I'd love to answer DMs.
I know the listeners got a lot of great value out of this. It's been an awesome conversation, Rick. I appreciate you being here, man.
Absolutely, Matt. Well, I appreciate it as well, and I'm excited to watch you grow, man. This is fun.
No, it's a blast. And to everyone listening, stay tuned for more amazing stories on Every Day is Friday. If you enjoyed this, make sure you follow, share, and keep that Every Day is Friday mindset going. Stay inspired and make every day feel like Friday. Until next time, everybody.